Brett, it's a final hit out. How's the squad sort of shaping up and looking towards today's game?
Well, final hit out, but we're still manipulating our squad. We took on the pre-season in its entirety, so we didn't aim on 1 week being our final hit out. We've got a great opportunity next week with our senior team taking on our VFL team, so that will be our final hit out. But no, we've had a nice even spread across the pre-season. There's 1 or 2 would like to have played a few more minutes, but we've also had a couple jump up at us too, which has made it really exciting.
Who are the blokes who've sort of really stepped up and, sort of gone up in the pecking order, I suppose, from, say 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah, well, I think second-year players in McRae and Hunter have shown that the second-year Blues are probably out of the question for them. Physically and mentally, they've jumped up and they've elevated amongst the group. So there's a couple, and then you look at guys like Rovat as well. So a lot of the younger guys have really come along. Guys that we wouldn't have thought we'd need to draw on too often, but now they're really in contention for selection.
Those second and third year blokes in the midfield, I mean, that's got to be good, particularly all the rotations these days. I mean, it gives you that more depth, doesn't it? Yeah,
it certainly does. Now, you've got to be able to play everywhere, and those second and third year players, sometimes we forget how young they are because they've had such a great early start to their career in Wallace and Liberatore and these guys. And like I said, McRae as a second year player, sometimes you just disregard his history because he just looks seasoned. But no, we're happy with the way particularly our midfield's tracking.
What sort of trends have you noticed in the first couple of hit-outs you've had? Trends coming into this year that have changed from last year?
I'm not sure there's been an enormous change. I think at the moment it's pretty dangerous to make too many assumptions because everyone's fresh and everyone's ready to go, and things like hanging onto the ball and being able to control it by foot, and those things jump out at you now while everyone's fresh and got a bit of life in them. But they'd be the early things I think that's jumped out.
And Carlton's got a bit of fresh talent. How are you going to deal with people like Daisy Thomas?
Oh, look, to be perfectly honest with you, this time of year you're really concentrating on yourself. And I know that sounds a little bit insular, but really we've got a whole heap of things that we've worked on for 4 or 5 months that we want to see implemented, not just in an average fashion, but perfectly. So how much time do we spend on the opposition? Maybe Carlton a little bit more because we play them early in the year, but normally this time of year we're looking at ourselves.
Marcus Bontempelli's out there, I know you haven't seen any, but do you think he's a good chance for round 1, given you still have another hit out next week, for him to sort of press his claims, I guess?
Oh, I think he's a chance. Certainly not going to shut his aspirations to be selected down. He's had a little niggle as well, so he's just on the comeback trail now. He'll play limited minutes out here today. I've seen no time, but I've no doubt he would have been really impressive. He's a great young kid, and if we draw on him, we'll have full confidence he'll do the job.
There's been a lot of talk about the rotation caps and whatever, and that it may affect in terms of midfield rotations to be less rotations of the big blokes and to keep it to the midfield. Have you sort of approached the lead up in that sort of sense of giving the big blokes more time on the field, or not?
Well, we found that it hasn't really affected us too much. We think the cap's really reasonable. We think it's common sense. The cap plus the interchanges at the breaks is our average of last year anyway, so it's not a huge burden on us, and we were sort of planning for things to go this way, give or take in terms of the number. So we think we've planned really well. We think it suits us. Obviously it suits the more mature teams a bit more, but it's not something our guys aren't ready for.
Who to talk about West Coast being a bit of a pre-season bolter. What did you make of them last night, and how do you think the squad's against them in that round 1 clash? Obviously a big one for your side.
Yeah, look, round 1, Perth, be 35 degrees, no doubt. They've had a faultless lead up. Yeah, they look really sharp at the moment. They look like a team that's a month ahead of everyone else, as they showed Fremantle last night. So yeah, it'll be tough for us, but again, another challenge our young guys are looking forward to.
It seems like they've got that press back to what they had a couple of years ago when they made the prelim.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, the way they're able to get the ball back in dangerous areas and not wait for their defence to win it back. But again, while you're up and about and fresh, these are the things you would expect to come out in your game, and look, we're chipping away at our own.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys. Cheers.